Welcome Scorpio to your in-depth weekly forecast for week commencing the 8th of April for the Ascendant, the Sun or the Moon. On the screen now I'm showing the event chart for the start of the week. This provides a backdrop for all 7 days. The big takeout is all the energy in house 6, including the retrograding Mercury, but you also have the Moon in this location, and it's just passed over Venus. The 6th house is where we get it all together in terms of life structure. So it's the details. It's not necessarily tremendously exciting, but if we get all those details working sweetly, then everything runs that much more smoothly. But having the Moon very close to Venus suggests that we can bring some flair to the equation. But if you recall last week, when Venus moved into the sign of Aries, it forged a sextile to Pluto. And Pluto is your modern ruler. And on the screen now, you can see it's right at the bottom of your chart. So it's suggesting since the 21st of January, and maybe for 11 weeks last year, that you're going through some very profound changes in terms of how you feel about life, your connection to people you're close to, such as your family or your extended family. It could be a desire to move somewhere different or renovate where you live, because Pluto can be to do with the Phoenix rising. So any kind of restoration fits with Pluto here. But its angle with Venus is still intact as this week begins. So if you can take a practical approach to what your emotional needs are, perhaps by creating more space or tidying up, decluttering, that's going to be a good thing to do. But of course, later on Monday, we do have the total solar eclipse. The Moon and the Sun move forwards from midnight and connect with Chiron. Chiron in Aries is very much about where we have our sense of identity. But the 6th house is often to do with work and where we're helping others, providing services. Over the next 6 months, you need to feel that you're valued. So if you're in a job where you just feel that you're a number and not validated very strongly, there could be a big change set to come your way. Now, of course, your traditional ruler of Mars is very much about passion. And it can, in the 5th house, be to do with creativity. And since it moved into your 5th house on the 23rd of March, you probably have felt a lot more sociable. But this week, it comes into a very tense conjunction with Saturn, the planet of restriction. And you can see from the wheel, they're pretty close together on Monday. So the tension can be there all week. So if you want to express yourself, but somehow your physical world is not very receptive or not very able for that, or you have a job that's a bit dull, then that could leave you feeling very uptight. But the total solar eclipse later on Monday suggests you can rebirth your approach to your work, your life structures. You know, is this a time when you can reorder things in some ways? And that will create more space for you to express yourself. Your relationship sector is very strong with Jupiter and Uranus closer in conjunction, which becomes exact on the 21st. By the end of this week, Mars moves past Saturn and connects in a sextile to Jupiter, which can give you a sense of excitement. So there may be a conversation or some dialogue you need to have at the heart of this week when maybe a tricky subject does need to be discussed. One of them just really could be is if you feel somewhat taken for granted. Now, at home, it may be because you're doing too many of the domestic chores. At work, it could be because colleagues think, well, you always do something that is not necessarily the most exciting role, and you don't tend to moan about it. But they could be in for a surprise, because at the heart of this week, you could find your voice in a much more direct way. And of course, when you do express yourself, when you're frustrated, you can really get to the heart of a matter in a very cutting way, and that can surprise people. But Mercury combines with the Sun on Thursday in a cazimi. And maybe the detail that you're going to bring up could surprise them, but you may also come up with some kind of suggestion which can make things better. Because the sixth house, even if it isn't the most dashing part of the zodiac, it is an area that's fundamentally very important, because if we don't have punctuality, if we don't have attention to detail, if we don't have a schedule, if things aren't ordered, then everything would just fall over. It can't just be off the cuff all the time. So we do need to have some kind of calibration and a setup that works. So that's the part of your life that maybe you're needing to refine at the moment. It's not perhaps quite working as you want. You could express your frustration in a big way at the heart of this week, but by the end of the week, some kind of solution will be evolving for you, which will delight you. It's been a real pleasure being with you, Scorpio. I hope you have a great week. If you've yet to do so, please like, comment, share, or subscribe.